Ham Fixin's Nets, first and third Monday, 7 p.m., W5FC. W5FC.
Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
Does anyone need to use the repeater before we begin the 9 p.m. Skynet? Please come now. This is WB5OZL. My name is Brenda. I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time using the pro sign break break and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic? This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from net control, that would be me, and stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates on 146.88 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5FC-R station ID or Echolink node 37247. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online. Go to w5fc.org right now for the complete list. Remember to tell others about this popular net. You can now check into the net electronically by going to the club website, w5fc.org. Look for tonight's announcement and click on the hot link to check in. We will acknowledge you on the air, and don't worry if you want to check in via voice. We will continue to do that too, both over air and Echolink. All amateur operators are welcome. You need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. This net is 90 minutes long and is structured in several parts. 1. General announcements. 2. Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events. 3. National Space Society events. 4. Recent astronomical discoveries. 5. Discussion topic of the evening. 6. Was Up. 7. Space exploration and space history. 8. Constellations of the week. 9. Space launches of the week. 10. Visible satellite passages over the next couple of days. 11. Astronomical Q&A, and 12. 73 round. All amateurs are licensed to transmit, who are licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. These are the ones that we have who have already checked in. We have KE5ICX, Tom in Corpus Christi, K5MCD, Cody in Dallas, W5BLT, Bill in Garland, AG9SG, Antonio in Dallas, KF5JHA, Chaz and his sidekick, Bob the Cat. They're from the third planet from the sun. I suppose they mean our sun. WB5OZL, Brenda from Dallas. NT5TM, Tony in Bird City. KI5PGM, Travis in McKinney. N5BB, Bill in Irving. Next, we'll take check-ins over the air. We'll do general check-ins first and then go on to Echolink. So please come now with your call sign, your name, and your QTH. Go ahead. Well, nobody's out there. How about anybody on Echolink? Please come down.
Good evening. This is Kilo Golf 5 Tango, November Foxtrot, John and Austin.
Okay, KG5TNF, John in Austin. Also on Echolink, I show, let me see, stand by. KG5TNF, Johnny, I don't know your location, but he's here on Echolink, so we'll go ahead and check him in. Do we have anybody else that wants to check in now? Please come now.
This is Whiskey Bravo 4 Mike Foxtrot India WB4MFI Ted Dallas Low Power.
This is Whiskey 5 Golf Uniform Sierra Gus, far, far northeast Dallas.
This is Kilo 5 Whiskey Victor Lima, James in Carrollton.
November Victor 5, Foxtrot, Virginia in Fort Worth.
Okay, I've got WB4MFI, Ted, W5GUS, Gus, and James, WBL. I missed your prefix. Would you come back with that?
It is Kilo Golf 5 and Whiskey Victor Lima.
Thank you, James. It's Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Victor Lima. Then I have November Victor 5, Foxtrot, Virginia. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. So, do we have any general announcements? Please come now.
November Tango 5 Tango Mike.
NT5TM. Go ahead, Tony.
Thank you, Brenda. Heavy Metal is, without a doubt, the strangest animated movie of the 80s. And even better than that, it's our discussion topic tonight for the Afterglow Movie Net, tonight at 10:35 or so. Now, the Richardson Wireless Club will be doing something that's not strange at all. Next weekend, on Saturday morning, August 23rd, they'll be conducting a high-altitude balloon launch. You can easily participate and earn a commemorative certificate from home. More details are at k5rwk.org. But if you want to leave the house and have fun with your friends, the Dallas Amateur Radio Club has an outstanding lecture and lab planned for Saturday the 23rd as well. You can, in Travis's words, choose your own adventure. There are unsold kits from past lecture and labs for sale, or you could bring your own unfinished project or kit from your home shack or a neighbor or a past lecture and lab. We'll meet at 10 o'clock a.m. at the Dallas Medical Center, our usual meeting location, and help each other finish our kits or builds or antennas or repair our radios, whatever. We're just going to work together and help each other get stuff done. Check out w5fc.org for more details. Please also don't forget the usual announcements. Tomorrow night we'll feature the meeting on the air at 7 p.m. and the Racy's training net at 8 p.m. On Monday, we'll have a Ham Fixins net at 7 p.m. right here. Please try something interesting in your kitchen tomorrow so that you can share us with it Monday night. Thank you for listening. Hope you have a great night. NT5TM.
Thank you, Tony. The AMSAT Radio Amateur Satellite Group has 3 nets available to Dallas residents on Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Central. You can check into the National AMSAT net, learn all about amateur satellites and how you can use them in amateur radio. The National AMSAT net will bring the most up-to-date information on amateur satellites currently in use or new ones coming online. You will need Echolink installed and be registered. You can find the net under Groups and AMSAT. Also, a live audio link is available on their website, www.amsatnet.com. This net originates in Houston, Texas. 2 local nets are available in Dallas. Both these nets encourage active check-ins. You can ask questions of the net control as well as others who are checked in. AMSATnet East, Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, is every Tuesday at 8 p.m. on this repeater, 146.88 megahertz, PL 110.9 megahertz, Tuesdays. Tom, N5HYP, is net control. All are welcome to check in. First Tuesday of the month is the DARC Club night, so no AMSAT East that night. Dallas AMSATnet West is every Wednesday at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater, 147.14 megahertz, PL 110.9 megahertz positive offset. And I think we will skip the regular nets to save some time so we don't run out of time. And you can find all of this on the W5FC website. All right, tonight's Afterglow. Tony mentioned this a little bit earlier. I'm going to ask Tom, KE5ICX, to read this because he wrote this. KE5ICX, Tom, could you do that for us, please?
But tonight's movie, as was mentioned earlier, is heavy metal. So here's my highly accurate information on it. Being a Canadian TV viewer was tough. Programming was somewhat meager. TV Ontario's exclusive House of Commons broadcast, the live Beaver Channel, Danger Bay's 50th anniversary special, and of course sports, Hockey Night in Canada, the last being the most and only national thing on Dullard TV. Gerald Potterton was a Canadian producer who also knew he could throw something at a wall and it would stick. In this case, the movie made in Canada for Canadians and some Americans who happened to pick up their broadcast while channel surfing for something better. Potterson knew he had a hit. After mind-altering moments of fermented maple leaves, he saw a movie with flying dragons, psychedelic animation, and eardrum-shatter rock music. A movie that would show in all 12 Canadian theaters and on late-night Canadian TV, 9 to 11 p.m., 8:30 Newfoundland time. Join us for the rock, heavy metal animated movie, well, called Heavy Metal, from 1981 tonight at 10:30 p.m. And if you go to the website tonight, the w5fc.org website, you can go see that film or watch it in the background while doing this net. It probably will make more sense without sound, unless you just like the music. Back to you, Brenda. This is KE5 ICX.
No, turn up the sound. You got to hear this music. It's good stuff. It's classic rock, heavy metal rock music, and the score is by Elmer Bernstein, who has scored a million movies. So anyway, join us, even if you haven't seen it. Join us, and because we always have a good time. So you can keep up with all DARC events, nets, and activities by going to the club website, w5fc.org. So let me check and see if we have any. Let's see, we picked up N5BB, Bill, and Irving on the list. So I'll now take additional check-ins. Please come down with your call sign, name, and location. None heard, but we'll give you a chance later to check in. So next up, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope. I'm going to call on N5BB, Bill, to give us information about that. No, I'm sorry, this is Chaz. I am so sorry. KF5JHA. Go ahead.
Easy to get both of us mixed up. We look so identical. Thank you, Brenda. On August the 22nd, that's going to be in 6 days, is the next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting. The meeting is going to be held at 7:30 p.m. in person at the University of Texas at Dallas. There's also a Zoom component. We don't know, I don't know exactly who the speaker or the topic is going to be. The last report was they were still looking for somebody, so I don't know. Now, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas hosts Saturday night public observing sessions. Skynet was picked to be on Saturday night, so there could be an opportunity for live reports from the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas public observing sessions. On the third Saturday of the month, that would be tonight, the stargazing is held at Cedar Hill. Now, maybe it is that there's somebody out there. Do we have a ham radio operator at the stargazing that would like to make a report? Come down with your call sign if there is. Well, there's a lot of things to see up there in the sky. A lot of things in the summertime sky easy to see. especially in the constellation of Scorpius. But we'll get into a constellation of the week in just a few minutes. Check the TASS website at texasastra.org for up-to-date information and details about meetings and public observing sessions. This is KF5JHA, back to our net control, WB5OZL.
Thank you, Chaz. Now we've got Bill in 5BB with a report on the National Space Society events and activities. Go ahead, Bill.
Well, thank you, Brenda. This is N5BB. Both Chaz and I have restricted hair follicles on the top of our heads, so that may be why you're confusing us. I happen to be the National Space Society North Texas Vice President and Membership Director. The National Space Society is a nonprofit group based in the U.S., which is interested in the exploration and development of space and the creation of a spacefaring civilization. Our local National Space Society chapter website is ntx.nss.org. Our group also has an active Facebook page. Just type National Space Society of North Texas into the search box. The North Texas chapter of the National Space Society meets at 3:30 p.m. on the second Sunday afternoon of each month. The meeting location is Spring Creek Barbecue on the southwest corner of Highway 183 and Beltline Road in Irving. The last chapter meeting, this last Sunday, was a virtual presentation by Dr. Rosalie Lopez of NASA JPL to discuss the Cassini-Huygens space probe, which investigated Saturn's moon Titan. Our meetings are also available virtually using WebEx. Contact Bill N5BB if you'd like to attend. Our next meeting will be on Sunday, September the 14th. On a space-related topic, the United States Mint opened sales for rolls and bags containing the fourth and final American Innovation Texas $1 coin of 2025 2 weeks ago, week before last. The reverse or tails design of the coins honors the innovation of mission control at the Johnson Space Center in Texas, and has an astronaut in a spacesuit in front of the International Space Station. These coins are legal tender, but they're not released through normal circulation. You have to order them directly from the U.S. Mint. Please contact me in 5 Bravo Bravo if you'd like one of these coins. Because I have a few. On the last Friday evening of each month, from 6 to 8 p.m., the National Space Society North Texas chapter sponsors a social event called Space Rendezvous. Location is Cheddar's Restaurant, 700 West Highway 635 in Irving. Anyone is welcome to attend and discuss human activities in space with us. No membership in any group is required. 11 people attended the July Space Rendezvous event. Then that was probably a new record. That's a lot of people. The next Space Rendezvous will be held on Friday evening, August the 29th. Again, it's always the last Friday of the month. If you have any questions about, assuming it's not a big holiday like New Year's Day, if you have any questions about the National Space Society, please contact Bill, N5BB, at his QRZ listed email address or at space@byrom.net. That's SPACE@BYROM.net via email. That's all I've got this evening. Back to you, Brenda. This is N5DV.
Thank you, Bill. Next up is recent astronomical discoveries. This is an article from ScienceNews.com. The title is, NASA and Japan's XRISM just found sulfur hiding between the stars. I know, I was beside myself with excitement. I'm sure you are too. And an international team of scientists have provided an unprecedented tally of elemental sulfur spread between the stars using data from the Japan-led XRISM, that stands for X-ray Imaging and Spectroscopy. I can never say this word. Spectroscopy mission spacecraft. Astronomers used X-rays from two binary star systems to detect sulfur in the interstellar medium, the gas and dust found in the space between stars. It's the first direct measurement of both sulfur's gas and solid phases, a unique capability of X-ray spectroscopy. XRISM's, it's pronounced CRISM, my mistake. Primary method of studying the cosmos. Sulfur is important for how cells function in our bodies here on Earth, but we still have a lot of questions about where it's found out in the universe, said Leah Corrales, an assistant professor of astronomy at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. Sulfur can easily change from a gas to a solid and back again. The CRISM spacecraft provides the resolution and sensitivity we need to find it in both forms and learn more about where it might be hiding. A paper about these results, led by Corrales, published June 27th in the Publications of the Astronomical Society of Japan. I'm going to reset. Using ultraviolet light, researchers have found gaseous sulfur in the space between stars. In denser parts of the interstellar medium, such as the molecular clouds where stars and planets are born, this form of sulfur quickly disappears. Scientists assume the sulfur condenses into a solid either by combining with ice or mixing with other elements. When a doctor performs an X-ray here on Earth, they place the patient between an X-ray source and a detector. Bone and tissue absorb different amounts of the light as it travels through the patient's body, creating contrast in the detector. To study sulfur, Corrales and her team did something similar. They picked a portion of the interstellar medium with the right density, not so thin that all the X-rays would pass through unchanged, but also not so dense that they would all be absorbed. Then the team selected a bright X-ray source behind that section of the medium, a binary star system called GX 340 plus 0, located over 35,000 light-years away in the southern constellation Scorpius. Using the Resolve instrument on CRISM, the scientists were able to measure the energy of GX 340 plus 0's X-rays and determine that the sulfur was present not only as a gas, but also as a solid, possibly mixed with iron. I'm going to reset. Chemistry in environments like the interstellar medium is very different from anything we can do on Earth, but we modeled sulfur combined with iron, and it seems to match with what we're seeing with CRISM, said co-author Elisa Costantini, a senior astronomer at the Space Research Organization, Netherlands, and the University of Amsterdam. Our lab has created models for different elements to compare with astronomical data for years. The campaign is ongoing, and soon we'll have new sulfur measurements to compare with the CRISM data to learn even more. Iron-sulfur compounds are often found in meteorites, so scientists have long thought they might be one way sulfur solidifies out of molecular clouds to travel through the universe. In their paper, Corrales and her team proposed a few compounds that would match Chisholm's observations: pyrrhotite, triolite, and pyrite, which is sometimes called fool's gold. The researchers are also able to use measurements from a second X-ray binary called 4U1630-472 that helps confirm their findings. NASA's Chanda X-ray Observatory has previously studied sulfur, but Chisholm's measurements are the most detailed yet, said Brian Williams, the Chisholm Project scientist at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center in Greenbelt, Maryland. Since GX 340 plus zeros on the other side of the galaxy from us, Chisholm's X-ray observations are a unique probe of sulfur in a large section of the Milky Way. There's still so much to learn about the galaxy that we call home. Chisholm is led by JAXA, that's the Japanese Aerospace Exploration Agency, in collaboration with NASA, along with contributions from ESA, European Space Agency. NASA and JAXA developed Resolve, the mission's microcalorimeter spectrometer. All right. Do we have any more check-ins at this point? Next up is the discussion topic of the evening, presented by me. And this is entitled, How to Create an Artificial Magnetosphere for Mars. It's a problem that it doesn't have one. I think it used to. If we didn't have one on Earth, this would be a very different place and not very livable for us. So, a lot of interest in how we can create one on Mars so we can go live there. So, if humanity is ever to consider substantial long-term colonization of Mars, the resources needed are going to be extensive. For long-term human presence on Mars to be established, serious thought would need to be given to terraforming the planet. One major requirement for such terraforming is having the protection of a planetary magnetic field, which Mars currently does not have. The Earth's magnetosphere helps protect the planet from the potential sterilizing effects of cosmic rays and also helps retain the atmosphere, which would otherwise be stripped by large solar storms as they pass over the planet. Mars does have small patches of remnant surface magnetic field, but these are localized in the southern hemisphere are not sufficient size or magnitude to protect the planet or a colony. In this article, we explore comprehensively, for the first time, the practical and engineering challenges that affect the feasibility of creating an artificial magnetic field capable of encompassing Mars. This includes the concerns that define the design, where to locate the magnetic field generator, and possible construction strategies. The optimum solution proposed is completely novel, although inspired by natural situations and fusion plasma techniques. The solution with the lowest power, assembly, and mass is to create an artificial charged particle ring, similar in form to a radiation belt, around the planet, possibly formed by ejecting matter from one of the moons of Mars in a fashion similar to that which forms the Jupiter Io plasma torus. By using electromagnetic and plasma waves to drive a net current in the ring that results in an overall magnetic field. I'm going to reset. The Earth's magnetic field that originates within the iron core from a dynamo process encompasses the planet and extends out into the near space environment. The magnetic field helps to reduce the radiation reaching the surface by redirecting and shielding large numbers of energetic solar particles that would otherwise create a radiation hazard to life. Another important benefit of the Earth's magnetic field is that it inhibits the loss of atmospheric particles from pickup by the solar wind during large solar superstorms. Increasing Mars's atmospheric pressure has been proposed as one of the primary requirements of terraforming Mars, along with warming and altering the atmospheric composition. The aim is to achieve a stable ecosystem, or ecopoiesis, but recent studies suggest that these efforts would be undone by a combination of processes driven by extreme ultraviolet light and solar wind from the sun, removing atmospheric gases from the upper atmosphere to space, and suggests that the presence of a strong intrinsic global magnetic field substantially decreases the loss of molecular ions and alters atmospheric conditions. In contrast, smaller subglobal magnetic fields, such might be considered for a small surface colony, offer a mixed benefit. The evidence from observations and simulations of the patches of crustal magnetic field that naturally occur already on Mars show that the presence of these anomalies can aid ion loss as much as they might hinder at other times, depending upon the orientation of the field and interplanetary environment. I'm going to reset. Mars is about half the size of Earth and has a much lower atmospheric density. This therefore makes atmospheric losses much more alter its composition on Mars will not want this effort to be undone by the first significant solar superstorm to reach the planet. One of the first goals of terraforming will be to increase the atmospheric pressure above the Armstrong limit, which is 6.3 kPa, a threshold that removes the requirements of having to wear a full body pressure suit, although oxygen will still be needed. Below the Armstrong atmospheric pressure limit, water in the lungs, eyes, and saliva spontaneously boils. Changing the atmospheric pressure can be expected to have wide-ranging consequences to many aspects of living and working on Mars, including, amongst others, to weather patterns, dust storms, and transportation, to name but a few. Primarily, though, a global magnetic field-generated magnetosphere, Mars could weather the worst of the atmospheric stripping effects of large solar events and help provide protection from radiation particles. What will be presented are multiple options for technology approaches and locations for the magnetic field-generating infrastructure, along with their pros and cons. The assumption was made here that there is a desire to create a magnetic field similar to that of a natural magnetized planet like the Earth, and then follow how this could be done with from a purely fundamental perspective. This issue of creating an artificial structure of unprecedented scale has not been considered in a peer-reviewed journal before. The calculations of power, resources, and other relevant parameters are all deliberately made only to first order, as higher precision figures would be meaningless without a comparable level of precision for the engineering. I'm going to reset. However, before any detailed engineering design can be proposed, there must first be an evaluation of the benefits and limitations of the different approaches and a choice of principle made. The aim here, therefore, is to discuss and compare the methods and and finally propose a novel solution. The technological options we will consider include restarting the planet's iron core, using solid-state permanent magnets in either continuous loop or a series of discrete magnets, the use of solid-state superconductors, or a plasma current loop similar to a current-driven plasma torus of an artificial plasma sphere. We shall also consider some of the factors concerning the source location of these generated magnetic fields. Within this analysis, we shall continue the issues and concerns that define the design, such as general mass and electrical current needs. Specific timescales and logistics of installation will not be considered, as it is anticipated that, or not considered here, as it's anticipated that terraforming Mars will be a worldwide and multi-century endeavor, and the potential for paradigm-changing developments would radically alter these. The one exception is the assumption that the development of successful nuclear fusion reactors as an efficient energy generation option. Nuclear fusion is already an extensive international scientific and engineering program that is ever closer to being achieved. Fusion power is likely necessary enabler for considering substantive colonization and terraforming in general. Fusion-based propulsion has been proposed as an important development for human planetary exploration, although at this time a successful economic fusion reactor has yet to be developed. Okay, does anyone have any questions or comments of tonight's presentation? Please come now with your call sign. Okay, do we have any more check-ins? Next up, was up from Chaz, KF5, JHA. Go ahead, Chaz.
Thank you, Brenda. Good evening, everyone. This is Chaz, KF5JJ, and Bob the Cat is very close to the computer, so if something goes awry, we'll blame him. We call this segment of Skynet What Is Up because it's all about what's going on astronomically over the last couple of weeks and what will take place over the next couple of weeks and beyond. Slide master, slide number 3. When I'm talking about slides, that's on the video version of Skynet. If you go to w5fc.org, click on the link for the video links, you'll go to the, let me see, the YouTube version of it. So, yeah, we have video. We've talked about the predicted nova of the star T Corona Borealis, which may erupt at any time. Currently, it's a brightness of around 10th magnitude. I just checked it a few moments ago, which is much too faint to see with just your 2 eyes. T Corona Borealis was supposed to go nova more than a year ago. Now, there's new predictions of November the 10th of this year and June the 25th of next year. Who knows when it's going to happen? We've already had past several different predictions. Now, when it does go nova, T Corona Borealis could become as bright as the North Star. Now, I can see the North Star with just my 2 eyes from my very light-polluted location in Mesquite, and the North Star is at 2nd magnitude. Slide master, slide number 4. On the video version, this image is from Sunday, August the 10th, of the Sun from spaceweather.com. The large sunspot complexes on the Sun are so large at times that you can just use your solar eclipse glasses to see them. Now, the Sun is near its 11-year solar maximum. We're not quite sure when the solar maximum will occur until after it happens. I talked about the solar cycle about 4 months ago on Skynet. Slide master, slide number 5, please. Today, on August the 16th, the moon is at third quarter phase. New moon is on August the 23rd. On August the 29th, the moon is at apogee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth at a distance of 404,548 kilometers. On August the 31st, the moon is at its first quarter phase. The full moon is on September the 7th. On September the 10th, the moon is at perigee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth at a distance of 364,777 kilometers. Slide master, slide number 6, please. This will be a series of things really quickly. So slide 6, on August the 19th, there's a conjunction of Mercury and M44, which is also known as the Beehive Star Cluster in the northeastern morning sky. You should use a pair of binoculars so you can see the Beehive Star Cluster. That's all you need, a pair of binoculars. If you're in a really dark place far away from the city lights, you could probably see it with just your two eyes, even though it's a morning twilight. Slide master, slide number 7. On August the 20th, the moon, Venus, and Pollux are in conjunction in the east-northeastern morning sky. Slide master, slide number 8. On August the 21st, conjunction of the moon, Mercury, and M44, remember M44 is the Beehive Star Cluster, can be observed in the east-northeastern morning sky. A lot of things happening in the morning sky, aren't there? Slide master, slide number 9. On August the 26th, there's a conjunction of the moon and Mars and the bright star Spica in the evening, southwestern sky. On slide master, that would be slide number 10. On August the 30th, there's a conjunction of the moon and the bright star Antares, which is the constellation of Scorpius, in the southwestern evening sky. That bright star is sort of in the southwestern sky right now is Antares, that you can see. Slide master, slide number 11. On August the 31st and September the 1st, at night, is the peak of the Rigid meteor shower, with around, half a dozen meteors per hour. Now, most of the time, you'll see more meteors in the hour just before dawn. To get detailed information about how to observe meteors and meteor showers, you can visit the International Meteor Organization at IMO.net or the American Meteor Society at AMSmeteors.org. Slide master, slide number 12. On September the 1st, in the eastern morning sky, is a conjunction of Venus and the star cluster M44. Remember, that's the Beehive Star Cluster. You will need to have binoculars to be able to see the Beehive Star Cluster because Venus is going to overwhelm it because Venus is so bright in the sky. In fact, Venus is still bright enough, you can see it in the daytime sky if you know exactly where to look. Yep, you can see Venus in the daytime sky. This is KF5JJ, and this is Skynet. Slide master, slide number 13. Do any of you out there in Radio Land have any questions? Or maybe you need a fill on some of the information I've given you. Or maybe you just have a general astronomy question. Come now with your call sign if you have a question or need a fill. Well, hearing nothing. Slide master, slide number 14. So as the moon wanes, so these words for this segment of Skynet: stay safe, keep well, pray for a world that's the only one where humans live. And until next time, actually I'll be doing another segment on Skynet in a few minutes. Keep looking up so you know what's up. And this is KF5JHA, and this is Skynet. We're transmitting on the W5 FC repeater on 146.88 megahertz with a private line tone of 110.9. Back to our net control. Brenda, it's up to you.
Thank you, Chaz. And this is Brenda, WE5OZL. Next up, space exploration and space history. I'm going to call on Gus, W5GUS. Go ahead, Gus.
thank you, Brenda. W5GUS here. Well, let's start off with the ISS, a week on the ISS. Fiber manufacturing and lunar brewing wrapped up the research week aboard International Space Station, helping NASA and its international partners promote the commercialization of space. The Expedition 73 crew also continued its space biology studies to keep astronauts healthy while packing a resupply ship for its upcoming departure and maintaining life support systems. NASA flight engineer Jenny Kim opened up the Destiny Laboratory module, a microgravity science glove box, and installed fabrication hardware inside to explore the commercial production of optical fibers in microgravity. Operators on the ground will remotely control the hardware as it pulls the thin glass strands that engineers will analyze to determine if the quality exceeds fibers produced in the Earth's gravity environment. Results may improve manufacturing techniques for both Earth and space communication industries. Okay, in the Japanese Aerospace Exploration Agency, astronaut Kamiya Yui spent his day inside the laboratory module reconfiguring a research incubator called the Cell Biology Experimental Facility. He replaced trays and compartments inside the scientific device to accommodate a technology demonstration of fermentation and brewing in microgravity. The JAXA study will simulate lunar gravity in the CBEF and ferment and brew sake yeast, then send frozen samples back to the Earth for analysis. Results may allow a familiar taste from Earth to be produced on the Moon for future visitors. Okay, and NASA's next topic and the news is NASA's new Sun Studying Mission, PUNCH, PUNCH. It attains its final form in Earth orbit. PUNCH, which stands for Polar Meteor to Unify the Corona and Heliosphere, is meant to precisely do what its name suggests. It's made up of 4 separate spacecraft, each of which NASA likens to the size of a standard suitcase. They have the power to collect rich data about the solar wind. The solar wind refers to the stream of charged particles emanating from the sun at extremely fast speeds, like 1 million miles an hour. However, even though we know the solar wind is connected to the sun, specifically the sun's corona or outer atmosphere, it remains unclear where the phenomenon's precise origin lies. That's where PUNCH comes in. The 4 spacecraft associated with the mission, 3 wide field imagers and a near field imager, can work together to isolate specific features within the solar wind that may hold clues to the puzzles or to the solution. Okay, we'll move on quickly to the space-related birthdays of August 10th through the 16th. So on August 11th, 1961, Frederick W. Stunchow was born on August 11th, 61. He was on STS-88, STS-105, STS-117, STS-128, VP-03, Unity 21, Unity 25, Galactic 02, Galactic 04, and Galactic 06. Wow, he's busy. All right, on August the 12th, 1951, Charles Brady was born, and he was on STS-78. August 13th, 1942, Robert L. Stewart was born. He was on STS-41, STS-51. Okay, and on August 14th, 1969, Tracy Caldwell Dyson was born, STS-118, TMA-18, MS-25, and that was it for Tracy. Okay, August 14th, 1943, John McBride, STS-41, STS-61. August 14th also, but in 1952, Mark C. Lee was on STS-30, STS-47, STS-64, STS-82. And Scott Allman was born on August 15th, 1947. He was on STS-90, STS-106, STS-109, STS-125. Okay, and on August 16th, 1958, Peter Wizoff was born. He was on STS-57, STS-68, STS-81, STS-92. And the last birthday of this past week was Stuart Roosa, August 16th, 1933. He was on Apollo 14. All right, we'll move on to This Week in Space History. Got a couple articles here. The big deal, I guess, August 13th, 1969, the Apollo 11 parade on August 13th, 1969, a couple weeks after Apollo 11 landed back on Earth. Its three astronauts, Aldrin, Armstrong, and Collins, rode in a ticker-tape parade in their honor in New York City. And if I remember correctly, they continued kind of around the world, did many stops in many countries all around the world, visiting and celebrating their achievement. Okay, August 13, 1972, Explorer 46 launched. If you don't remember, August 13, 1972, Explorer 46 was launched. It was designed to provide data on the frequency and penetration energy of meteoroids and micrometeoroids near Earth orbit. The original consisted of a hexacylinder bus covered with solar cells. Meteoroid impacts were detected and measured using bumper panels that extended after launch and gave the satellite a windmill-like appearance. The central hub of the satellite carried the velocity and impact experiments. And when the bumper targets were extended from the satellite, it had an overall width of 23 feet. That's pretty big. Okay, October 12, 1977. HEAO was launched. There's a photograph showing the High Energy Astronomy Observatory being assembled at the TRW Systems of Redondo Beach, California. It was designed and developed by TRW under the project management of the Marshall Space Flight Center. It was the first observatory designed. HEAO-1 was launched on August 12, 77, aboard an Atlas Centaur launch vehicle and was designed to survey the sky for additional X-ray and gamma ray sources, as well as pinpointing their positions. And that satellite was decommissioned in 1979, a couple years later. All right, and that is it for this week's space stuff. So we'll return it back to Net Control for Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week and Chaz. Back to you, Brenda, W5GUS.
Thank you, Gus. Do we have any check-ins at this time? Okay, we're going to move on to Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week with Chaz, KF5JHA.
Thank you, Brenda. Slide number 15, please. Slide master. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is named in honor of Silent Key Carolyn, KC5OZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week, almost from its beginning in 2012 till May of 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Since there are about 52 easily visible constellations seen in Texas throughout the year out of the 88 total number of constellations, so Miss Carolyn covered the entire sky as seen over North Texas in a year. And in her honor, we've continued that tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her. So, Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week this week, it's a twofer. It's a double feature. Wonder if we ever have double features in the Afterglow movie. That'd be interesting. Oh, I'm sorry. The two constellations this week are Scutum, the Shield, and Corona Austrina, or Corona Australis, the Southern Crown. Now, one of these constellations, the Southern Crown, is just south of Sagittarius. The other one, the Shield, Scutum, is north of Sagittarius. They both are, well, in the Milky Way, while the Milky Way is running through them, and there's a wide variety of different objects to observe in each one of the constellations. Corona Australis, the Southern Crown, is known as, to the Greeks, as a reef, not a crown. Before Ptolemy introduced its stars as a separate constellation, Corona Australis was known as the circlet of the stars near the forefeet of the Centaur, Sagittarius. Now, Corona Australis is one of the smallest constellations of the sky. It's only the 80th in the size, and it occupies an area of 128 square degrees. Just a reminder, there's 88 constellations in the sky. Scutum, the Shield, is one of the more modern constellations. It was created in 1684 by astronomer Helvius, who named it for Scobie's shield. This is to honor his patron king, King John III Scobie of Poland. Scutum is the only modern constellation introduced for political reasons. It is the fifth smallest constellation in the sky, or the 84th constellation in size, occupying an area of only 109 square degrees. Slide master, slide number 16, one of the most important parts of Skynet, the jokes of the week. Now, it's been very quiet over on Echolink, but here's the rules. When I talk about one of the jokes, you can comment over there on Echolink if you want to. Boo, hiss, applaud, whatever you want to do. If you're on air, you just have to listen through it, and you can say, oh, or you can say, yeah, that's funny. All right, here we go. You know you got to say, I'm a big fan of shields. They're really something you can get behind. What do you call the Hulk when he picks up Captain America's shield? The Star-Spangled Banner. If you don't understand it, I'll have to explain it to you later. Where does Wonder Woman get her shield from? Well, of course, from Amazon. Oh, come on, that's funny, too. Why does the king go to the dentist? to get his teeth crowned. Oh, I think this is a different crown than we're talking about. Ooh, I'm getting boos and hisses over here. This is awesome. Oh, boos and hisses over an Echolink. And the last one in the sequence, did you hear about the newborn baby? It was its first crowning achievement. Oh, slide master, slide number 17, please. Talk about one star in Corona Australis. It's Alpha Corona Australis, which is a Class 2AV star, which is an apparent magnitude of 4.10. It is 130 light years in distance. It is the only named star in the constellation. It's got its name Alphega Alphega means of the south, after Alphega, which is the brightest star in the northern constellation of Corona Borealis. Slide master, slide number 18. Corona Australis Nebula is a bright reflection nebula about 420 light years distance, formed by several bright stars caught up in a dark cloud of dust. The cloud is a star-forming region with clusters of young stars embedded within it. Interesting. Corona Australis Nebula consists of three nebulous regions, NGC 6726, NGC 6727, and NGC 6729. The molecular cloud complex in the region is one of the nearest areas with recent or ongoing intermediate and low mass star formation. Slide master, slide number 19. The Coronet cluster is located 420 light years from the Earth and stretches about 10 light years across. The Coronet cluster is a relatively loose cluster of only a few dozen stars, many of which are about a few million years old. Not very old. It is one of the nearest known regions with ongoing star formation. While perhaps not as quite as well known as the star forming region called Orion, the Corona Australis region containing at its heart the Corona cluster is one of the nearest and most active regions of ongoing star formation. Slide master, slide number 20. Let's move on to a different constellation. Alpha Scuti is the brightest star in the constellation of Scutum. It's an orange giant with the stellar classification of K23. Is an apparent magnitude of 3.85 and is approximately 174 light years distance from the Earth. The star used to belong to Aquila constellation and was previously designated as 1 Aquilae. It is known as a variable star with its brightness varying by about 10%. Alpha Scuti is 132 times more luminous than our Sun and a mass of 1.7 times the mass of our Sun. Believed to be at least 2 billion years old. Slide master, slide number 21, please. The Messier object M11 was discovered in 1681 by Hirsch of the Berlin Observatory. He could not resolve it into individual stars. Its true stellar nature was not discovered until 1731 by William Derham of England. In 1844, renowned British astronomer Admiral William Smith, is it Smith or Smythe? I think it's Smythe, described M11 as a flight of wild ducks in a shape, and the name stuck. It's called the duck cluster, or the wild duck cluster. M11 is easily found in binoculars or a finder scope. In small telescopes, the cluster has a triangular V shape, forming the Admiral Smythe's flock of wild ducks. The 8th magnitude star at the apex of the V is not a cluster member, but a foreground star. I think of it as the lead duck, is what I think of it as. Slide Master, slide number 22. M26 is a small, loose, open cluster. It is quite a contrast to M11. M26 is much more sparsely populated and is noticeably smaller than M11. Robert Burnham Jr. noted that Admiral Smythe described M26 as a coarse but bright cluster of stars in a finely condensed part of the Milky Way, which is just about sums up what it is. The whole constellation of Scutum is taken up by the Scutum star cloud, which is the brightest part of the Milky Way outside of Sagittarius. And this is KF5JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 23, please. Now, there are a few more Astronomical League observing program objects in the constellation of Scutum, the Shield, and Corona Australis, the Southern Crown. I've just given you a sampling of a few of those objects. The Astronomical League has, at last count, 74 different observing programs. Oh, I'm sorry. It's now 76. I've got to revise my script. Just got the update just a couple weeks ago. So 76 different observing programs, most of which have about 100 objects in them. Now, if you observe just 10 different objects in an observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate. I guess I need to get a drink of water and a pen in about a year from the Astronomical League. Slide Master, slide number 24. Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, or Constellations of the Week, Scutum, the Shield, and Corona Australis, the Southern Crown. I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell for the research and words on the deep sky objects that I use, borrow, and steal from them for every Skynet. I also at times use the website constellation-guide.com for information. Now, next week we'll take a look at Aquila, the Eagle. We talked about Aquila just a little bit in our description of the Constellation of the Week. This is KF5JHA. Back to our net control 73, everyone.
Thank you, Chaz. Do we have any more check-ins now? Okay, we picked up a couple in the online sign-up. AA5AH, Robert and Richardson, and KJ5GMG, Chuck in Plano. Thank you all for joining us. All right, next up we've got space launches for this week. I call on Tom, KA5ICX, to present those. Go ahead, Tom.
Thank you, Brenda. This is KE5ICX. Well, let's see. What do we have? August 18th is the next launch that I have listed here. The Falcon 9 will be a Starlink 17-5. This will launch from Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. There will be 24 Starlink V2 mini satellites that will launch on a SpaceX Falcon 9. Nearly 8.5 minutes after liftoff, the first stage booster. Tail number, hey, we got a tail number, B1088, will be launching for the 9th time, and will target a landing on the drone ship, Of Course I Still Love You, positioned in the Pacific Ocean. Then we have on August 21st, the Falcon 9, also USSF 36. This will launch from Launch Complex 39A at Kennedy. This will launch the 8th mission of the X-37B orbital test vehicle, cargo space plane built by Boeing on behalf of the U.S. Space Force in cooperation with the Air Force Rapid Capabilities Office. The mission, also referred to as USSF-36, will demonstrate space-based communications using laser links between the space plane and a proliferated commercial satellite networks in low Earth orbit. That's what it says. Officials haven't said if this will involve SpaceX Starlink constellation or the Starshield satellite
developed for government use. It will also demonstrate what USSF calls the highest performing quantum inertial sensor ever tested in space, in order to show navigation capabilities without the use of GPS satellite constellations. The day-to-day operations of the X-37B are managed by the 5th Space Operations Squadron within USSF Delta 9. August 22nd, we'll see a launch from, let me make sure it's not a duplicate. Nope, this is a few days later. This one is a Falcon 9 launch of Starlink 17-6. That'll be from Vandenberg up from SLC-4E once again. This will be 24 Starlink V2 mini satellites into low Earth orbit, nearly 8.5 minutes after liftoff. The first stage booster, tail number B10A1, will be landing for the 17th. That's 17 times. We'll target a landing on the drone ship, of course, I Still Love You, which is still parked out there from the previous one from 2 days earlier. Then we have another Falcon 9 launch. This will be August 24th. This one will be from SLC-40 at Cape Canaveral in Florida. Falcon 9 rocket will launch a Crew Dragon spacecraft with more than 5,000 pounds of science and supplies to the International Space Station. The Dragon flying this mission will include a new propulsion system within the vehicle's trunk and will allow it to perform a boost of the space station's orbit. This is a milestone in SpaceX development of the ISS deorbit vehicle, which will help slowly lower the orbit of the space station at the end of its functional life around 2030 or 31 time frame. Then we have a launch on August 24th. We've been waiting for this for a while, Starship Flight 10. This will launch from Starbase in Texas, about 80 miles south of me here. A SpaceX Starship Super Heavy rocket, collectively referred to as Starship, will launch from Starbase, Texas, on a suborbital flight. This will be the 10th flight of the integrated launch vehicle, similar to Falcon 9. The SpaceX will not attempt to perform a catch of the Super Heavy booster and instead attempt a controlled splashdown in the Gulf. The ship's upper stage will also target an aquatic ending and will also attempt multiple demonstrations like deploying 8 Starlink simulators and relighting a single Raptor engine during the coast phase of the mission. And by the way, a personal note, I can see this launch out my window here where I live. I can see the jet plume. The rocket's too far away to actually see it itself, but the jet plume is very obvious as it goes up into space. Then August 26th, I don't know why I'm stuck on August 22nd, but it was something with me, I guess. August 26th, Falcon 9, Starlink 10-11, SLC-40 from Cape Canaveral, 28 Starlink V2 mini satellites into low Earth orbit. And just to keep things different, 8.5 minutes after liftoff, the first stage booster, tail number 1095 will be landing for its second time for a target landing on the drone ship of a short fall of gravitas positioned in the Atlantic Ocean. And let's see, what do we got? Oh, we got time. Let's see, August 29th, Falcon Starlink 17-7 from SLC-4E, 24 Starlink V2 mini rockets, satellites into low Earth orbit. This will be Bravo 1063, flying for the 27th time, and will target a landing on the drone ship, of course, I Still Love You, positioned in the Pacific Ocean. Then we have, oh boy, here we go, another Falcon 9 launch. This will be in mid-September. This will be from Launch Complex 39A, or it could be SLC-40. They're both outfitted identically. The Falcon 9 rocket will launch a Cygnus spacecraft from Northrop Grumman on a resupply mission to the International Space Station. This will be the 22nd launch of the Cygnus spacecraft. The NG-22 mission was delayed indefinitely as the spacecraft was damaged during transport to Florida. And then finally, one more, going a little further out, September 29th, the New Glenn Escapade launch from Launch Complex 36 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. The Blue Origin New Glenn rocket will launch a pair of identical spacecraft, Escapade Escape and Plasma Acceleration and Dynamics Explorer, that's an ESCAPADE mission. The two satellites, known as Blue and Gold, will make roughly 11-month journey to Mars, where they will then perform an 11-month science mission while orbiting the red planet. Blue and Gold were manufactured by Rocket Lab over 3.5 years and carry science experiments in the University of California, Berkeley. This mission of the New Glenn rocket will also feature a landing attempt on its landing barge in the Atlantic Ocean. And just to continue on, I'm just going to go ahead and do visible satellite passages since I'm already here and come up next. So let's see here if I can do this. The International Space Station, visible satellite passages. This one's good. We have a number of them coming up for August that are quite nice. August 17th, we have minus 3.2 magnitude at 5:39 in the morning. It'll reach its highest point at 52 degrees. That's pretty good at 5:41. It'll fall to the northeast at 5:44. If August 18th, there are two passes. One is minus 1.9 magnitude at 4:53 a.m. out of the east-southeast. It'll reach its highest point at 4:53:48. That one's coming out of shadow, by the way, at 25 degrees, and it'll fall to the east-northeast at 4:56. Second is 90 minutes later, minus 2.2 magnitude at 6:27 a.m. It'll reach its highest point at 24 degrees at 6:30, and it'll fall to the north-northeast at 6:32. Then we have August 19th, minus 3.1 magnitude, very bright, 5:40 a.m. out of the west. It'll reach its highest point at 42 degrees at 5:41. It'll fall to the north-northeast at 5:44. August 20th, kind of a repeat, minus 2.5 magnitude, 4:54 in the morning at 42 degrees. That's coming out of shadow. That is also its highest point, and it will fall to the northeast at 4:56. August 20th, minus 2.5 magnitude. This is it. Oh, I already read that. And that's it for those. What can I say? There are a lot of them this week. There wasn't anything last week, as you may recall. Now, next up is the Chinese space station. This has grown quite large. It has 5 modules now in Earth orbit, so it's showing some respectable magnitude as it crosses across the sky. August 19th shows a very good pass, minus 2.0 magnitude at 6:19 a.m. It'll reach 74 degrees at 6:22, and it'll fall to the east-northeast at 6:25. And we have on August 20th, that'll be a minus 1.2 magnitude at 5:25 a.m. It'll reach its highest to this one. This one comes out of shadow, and then about 20 seconds later reaches its highest point at 38 degrees, and it'll fall to the east-northeast at 10 degrees at 5:28. And then finally, August 21st, minus 1.6 magnitude at 6:03 a.m. reaches highest point at 6:05 at 52 degrees out of the north-northwest, and it'll fall at 6:08. I will mention August 22nd. I think this one's just a short-lived one, minus 1.6 magnitude as well, 5:09. It comes out of shadow at 5:09, 59 degrees, and it'll fall to the east-northeast at 5:11. So there are a number of really excellent passes for both space stations. So if you're up early, it'd be a great time to go out and take a look at these satellite passes. There's a couple, one or at least one, sometimes two each day over the next few weeks, few days, next week and a half, I guess. Back to you, Brenda. This is KE5 ICX.
Thank you, Todd. Okay, do we have any more final check-ins or any comments? Okay, tonight we had 18 hams participating on the air. Thank you for all who checked into this evening. We hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for this and all other DARC nets. If you would like to try your hand at this, contact any of the net controls by sending an email to nets@w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussion about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and X, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful Internet resources by going to w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net. Until next Saturday night, this is WB5OZL, Brenda, and I'll be closing the net at 10:24 local time, and returning the repeater to normal amateur use. And don't forget, in 5 minutes, we meet back here for our Afterglow movie discussion. Heavy Metal is the movie from 1981. 73, everybody, and enjoy discovering the universe.
Normal state.
completely operational and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Afterglow Movie Net.
All right, it's been about 5 minutes, and it is now 10:30, and it's time for the Afterglow Movie Net. Tonight's movie is called Heavy Metal from 1981. It's a Canadian adult animated science fantasy anthology, and it's directed by Gerald Totterson. You may remember that name from my highly accurate description earlier, produced by Evan Reitman and a bunch of other people. Had voices of the following people: Roger Bumptass, Jackie Burroughs, John Candy, John Flaherty, Don Franks, Martin Levant, Marilyn Lightstone, Eugene Levy, Alan Clayton, Harold Ramis, Percy Rodriguez, Susan Roman, Richard Romulus, August Schoenberg, John Vernon, and Sal Yanofsky. You probably recognized a bunch of those names, either from Saturday Night Live or from Second City. In any case, they were well known back in those days. The film is an anthology of various science fiction and fantasy stories tied together by a single theme of an evil force, or the sum of all evils. It's adapted from Heavy Metal magazine and original stories in the same spirit. Like the magazine, the film features a great deal of graphic violence, sexuality, and nudity. Its production was expedited by having several animation houses working simultaneously on different segments. Although, when you watch it, the segments themselves look very similar, as though it's all done by the same folks. Upon release, the film received mixed reviews from critics, but was a moderate commercial success and has since achieved a cult following. Its soundtrack was packaged by music manager Irving Azoff and included several popular rock bands and artists, including Black Sabbath, Blue Oyster Cult, Sammy Hagar, Don Fielder, Cheap Trick, Devo, Journey, and Nazareth, among others. There was a sequel that came out in 2000 called, appropriately, Heavy Metal 2000. Now, I won't go into the plots because there are a number of them, but there are stories. One was called Soft Landing by Daniel Bannon, titled with a title, this is the thing that opens up and starts the story. Grimaldi, this one, short story. Harry Canyon was another, and Den was another. I guess this came from a comic book series that was done. That one had John Candy in it as Den, by the way. Captain Stern. Another is Neverwhere Land, B-17, which I think was a popular one with our group watching it last night. So Beautiful and So Dangerous was another. Karna was probably the more interesting one, with flying dragons in it. And then finally, let's see, the epilogue, which is the final story that takes us to a conclusion. Let's see here, what can I tell you about it? Reports that 66% of critics have given them Rotten Tomatoes. The film a positive review based on 35 reviews, average rating of 5.8 out of 10. This is one of the things, it's sexist, juvenile, and dated, but Heavy Metal makes up for its flaws with eye-popping animation and a classic, smartly used soundtrack. I'd agree with that. says here that Janet Naismith of the New York Times wrote that for anyone who doesn't think an hour and a half is a long time to spend with a comic book, Heavy Metal is impressive. And note the film was scored very well with music much less ear-splitting than the title would suggest. Variety declared initial segments had a boisterous blend of dynamic graphics, intriguing plot premise, and a sly wit that unfortunately slid gradually downhill. Still, the net effect is overwhelmingly positive one and is likely to find its way into upbeat word of mouth. Cisco at Chicago Tribune gave the film 3 stars, writing, "It isn't intended for close scrutiny on a literal level. The film clearly is intended as a trip. And on that level, it works very nicely." He criticized the film as blatantly sexist and having wildly romanticized violence. Los Angeles Times says somehow a great deal of charm of the magazine leaked out on the way to the movie house, but all the sadism stayed put, and then some. It's the most expensive adolescent fantasy fulfillment ever to slither on the screen. But it is interesting that I saw some of the reviews on this, and fans gave it a solid 4 or 5 stars. So it frequently aired on HBO and Cinemax in the 80s and 90s. It was released many times in different formats through the years, including a Blu-ray release in 2011. There's been a remastered copy that came out on April 19, 2022. So if you have a Blu-ray, you can get this, along with restored sound, of course, which helps a lot. An LP was released in 1981 and a CD in 1995. Let's see. There are 16 songs that are listed in the movie by the people that I mentioned earlier, a number of them. I won't list them all because we got to get started. But it reached the charts. It was on the Canadian top albums and reached its peak position at number 8. And on the U.S. Billboard, it reached number 12. Well, of course, it's A-list rock and roll, man. Your call sign film. And we'll go down the list. We can talk about plot. This is going to be difficult to do because there are a number of different stories. If you would like to highlight something that you thought was interesting or add additional comments that somebody else has mentioned prior to your check-in, that's perfectly fine too. Or if you just want to mention something different or in general about the overall look and feel of the film, that's perfectly fine as well. So we'll have plenty of time for that. So that will be the plot, anything you want to mention about the movie in general or specific segments. When we get to character development, that one may be a little difficult, but again, there are so many different characters and individuals. You may even want to go to Wikipedia and bring it up so that you can talk about whatever segment you want or refer to it by name. That may be helpful along the way, otherwise we'll have to figure it out on our own. But that information is quite extensively done under wikipedia.org. And then finally, special effects or anything. We'll see how this all goes. We haven't done an anthology movie in quite a while, so I'm a little rusty, but we'll go ahead and get started. Please come with your call sign, your name, and did you see Heavy Metal from 1981? Here we go.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas. Yes, I saw the movie.
November 5, Bravo, Bravo. Bill in Irving. Yes, I saw the movie.
Kilo 0 Foxtrot Echo Romeo, Chris, Southeast Dallas. Yes, I saw the movie quite some time ago.
November Victor 5, Foxtrot, Virginia in Fort Worth. Yes, I saw the movie.
WB5OZL, Brenda in Dallas. Yes, I saw it.
All right, let me get these folks checked in. We've got NT5TM Tony in Dallas. Yes, he saw it. N5BB Bill Irving. Yep, he saw it. K0FER Chris East Dallas. Yes, he saw it. NB5F Virginia over in Fort Worth. Yep, she saw it. And WB50ZL Brenda in Dallas. Yes, she saw it. Additional check-ins. Okay, we'll go ahead and start with those. I suspect other folks may show up a little bit later. So we'll start at the top of the list and go down in order. Tony, NT5TM, you saw the film. What did you think about it? Was it your first time? And how were you, what did you think about the plot for Heavy Metal from 1981?
Wow, I had a great time. This was really crazy for me. I even imagined connecting like the first and last segments into to make the movie The Fifth Element. You need a cab driver and a beautiful one who fights against evil, and that's how you get the Fifth Element. I don't think that's consciously what Luc Besson was doing, but it's kind of neat how that works. I loved it. I really liked the anthology short story format. Man, the B-17 sequence was one of the creepiest things I've ever seen in a movie. I didn't just love Tarna, I loved her flying mount, who looked like a giant baby songbird. I'll talk more about that later. Yeah, I really liked all the stories. They spanned the whole range from really terrifying, creepy horror to just giggling Cheech and Chong laughter like, you know, why would anyone try to drive a spaceship anywhere that high? So yeah, I thought they did a great job. They sucked me in. They got me paying attention. It was very much a movie of its time. You know, we're not talking about like computer rendering. It was all hand-drawn, or at least it looked all hand-drawn. I really enjoyed all the plots. I loved the experience of being sometimes scared and sometimes laughing and sometimes just like in a Western, cheering for the good guys. I thought the plots, yes, they were plural, were a great medley. NT5TM.
All right, very good. Thank you, Tony. That's thumbs up from Tony. Next up is Bill, N5BB. Bill, what did you think about the movie and the stories from 85? I guess.
This is N5BB. Well, although in general I don't really like this kind of animated thing, it was okay. Some parts of it were a little bit slow to me, believe it or not. It like the story kind of went on a little too far. Other things weren't connected as well as they should have been. I saw a reference on Wikipedia or somewhere. There's a whole segment that was cut out because of the length, trying to reduce the length of it. And I think it was right before the B-17 segment. So I think, you know, sometimes it's not super obvious how the green orb appeared from one segment to the other, moved in there. There were various things in it that kind of bothered me. It was rather hypersexual, and some women may be very offended by how it kind of depicted women in some cases as an object, but other women may be happy about the fact that they were kind of depicted as powerful, sexual powerful, and Yeah, kind of like Joan the Arc. Joan of Arc. I was a little bit confused by the car that landed from space. I went back and looked at that section a couple of times, but every time I look at it, it appears to me the car sets down, and after it sets down, it looks to me like the parachute is released. Did I misinterpret what I'm seeing? It somehow didn't look like the parachute was helping the thing go down. It looked like it was kind of released once it was on the ground. I didn't understand that. Maybe I just didn't. Maybe it was the editing that was bad in that area. I really liked the taxi driver segment. And although it was very violent, it was kind of cool how he had the he had the button to vaporize the people in the rear seat. Uh-oh, I think I talked too long. That's all I got for now in 5BB.
All right, thank you, Bill. You must be on a portable tonight because it's yelling at you. Okay, very good. Next is Chris, K0SDR. Chris, you said it was a long time ago you saw it, but I bet you remember a lot of it. What did you think about it back then, and what do you think about it today? From KE5I6.
Well, it has been almost 20 years since I've seen it, and I don't remember a lot of the pieces. One of the ones I do remember pretty well, I think, is some sort of space trial that goes south, and a guy winds up hulking out, and then winds up being thrown into the vacuum of space at the end of everything. Overall, I remember the movie being just such a head trip. Goodness gracious. It was just this kind of hedonistic fever dream that somehow got financed. But all in all, 20-year-old me seems to enjoy it. I seem to have some fond memories, but it's something I need to go back and revisit. Back to that KZRFBR.
All right, thank you, Chris. So we got 2 thumbs up, basically, and it's a trip, and a medium, yeah, still okay. And now let's go to NV5F, Virginia. What did you think about the film and the various segments from KE5I6?
Thanks, Tom. Well, I agree. This movie is a definite hedonistic fever dream. I hadn't seen this movie in, I don't even want to admit how long it's been since I've seen it, because it would date me. I saw this on cable when I was a kid, and I watched it quite a few times, and I loved the animation, and I loved just how trippy the stories were, and I didn't realize at the time, that there's a reason why they put certain movies on HBO between, midnight and 4 a.m. But it was during the summer, and I was awake all hours of the night, and I saw this one several times. And I loved animation, and I loved science fiction. And I just happened to see this, and I liked, there were parts of it I had completely forgotten. And then there were parts that just, I remembered them almost like they were yesterday. And it's a whole different experience for me now. And it was obviously obviously a very very, what was the word somebody used? Sort of a juvenile pursuit, for, a certain demographic of young male viewers were, I'm sure, the target here. And, but it did, it really aged a lot better than I thought it would. I liked they did have a through line. They figured out a way to get a through line into all these short subjects. It had, the through line was kind of a loose story, but they kind of brought it full circle at the end. And I did like the trippy sequence at the beginning where the guy comes out of the space shuttle in a car and he goes down through the atmosphere and somehow doesn't have to deal with reentry. The issues of reentry, and I didn't know anything about space back then, so I didn't really care. And the whole part where he has to put on his windshield wipers because there's so much air pollution and it's like gunking up his front window, I thought that was funny. It's all stuff I didn't remember until I saw it again, and I really thought the opening was cool. And then, of course, the shock value of that he brings home this evil green thing that I guess they found somewhere in outer space, and I guess it shows, and it like, he gives it to his daughter and then, or he shows it to her and then it melts him and melts his face off. And then it proceeds to basically, I guess, show her a flashback of its journey, on its way to, being brought to her house on the hill where she's kind of, and it flashed back to that. It flashed back to that framing device between the segments and kind of held everything together. And I loved my favorite. I remember when I was a kid, my favorite was the last major segment, the Tarna segment, and I loved that character. She was, she was this graceful woman with like gray hair, but she was young and she had this cool bird she flew around on, and I'm like, Tony, I loved that bird. I used to draw pictures of that bird that she flew around on. It was kind of my favorite character, I think, was the bird. Because you could tell it was like a loyal, like her loyal steed, basically, and she was a hero, and she went and kicked a bunch of butt, and then sacrificed herself and brought the whole thing full circle, and then the girl at the beginning ends up being like her heir apparent. And I just thought that was cool. I thought they did a good job of making it into like a little bit of everything. It had this kind of heroic through line in the story, and then it had all these crazy, like just, self-absorbed sort of, softcore, shows and little shorts, but really creative. I remember thinking the Den of Earth one was like really funny, and he was like this, sort of good at heart guy who was still good at heart even though he was big and powerful and could have whatever he wanted in this fantasy sci-fi planet that he ended up on. And the B-17 one was super trippy, and I had totally forgotten about that one that was the space trial. It was on a space station, and they're trying that guy, Captain Stern, and the little guy who's supposed to be his shill, ends up telling on him, and the hulking out part. And in that scene, in that one, the green orb is like a marble that he finds on the floor on his way to the trial. And the one with the guys, the guys getting stoned in space, and the stupid robot, and the opening one was cool. I remember thinking that was cool. Like Bill said, the button he has to completely disintegrate anyone who's acting up in the back seat of the taxi, and the lady he's trying to help sort of ends up double crossing him, and she gets vaporized, and I guess he takes the money and runs. But just it's not very deep or meaningful on a surface level, but then at the end it kind of has this real kind of cool, it has kind of a cool, like, you know, heroic kind of thing. I remember just loving this when I was a kid, and I liked it this time around a lot more than I thought I would, because I hadn't seen it in so long. And I thought, oh, that's just some goofy thing I liked when I was a kid. I'll just watch it today. And I got through it, and I was like, that was a lot more fun than I thought it was going to be this, you know, this time around. And it holds up. It still holds up pretty well. I'll have more comments on characters, and I'll definitely have comments on animation, because I'm an animation person, so I'll have a lot to say about the animation maybe in round 3. So back to net, MV5S.
All right, well, it sounds like it's almost unanimous here. People did like this film, and I'll give my comments here in a little bit. Brenda, WD5OZL, what did you think about the plot and stories for Heavy Metal from 1981? All right, Brenda says, skip me now. I guess that means that she doesn't want to talk right now. I'll come back to her in a minute. Let me do this. Let me ask if there's anyone else that would like to check in. There could be. I know there could be some folks that are late check-ins, but if you would like to talk about tonight's movie, which is Heavy Metal from 1981, the animated 90-minute show movie, please come with your call sign, your name, did you see tonight's movie? Interesting. It's a little lighter crowd tonight. In fact, Skynet was like that as well. I don't know what happened with TechNet. But I don't know. Maybe there was an event today that whacked everybody out. It's possible. It's just a little lighter than I'm used to seeing. But at any rate, that's perfectly okay. I'll make my comments, and that is, first off, I wasn't sure I was going to like it. I didn't know. I'd never seen this before. I had heard of it, but I knew nothing about it. So I watched it cold. I'd never seen it before. And I rather liked it. I agree with everyone's comments so far. I thought the stories were a little on the lightweight, kind of adolescent at portions, obviously. There was a lot of sex and violence and all that, and I'm okay with it. I mean, I expected it in it. I knew that was going to be a part of it. But I thought that the stories were kind of fun and engaging, and yeah, I agree. The flying, that bird thing was kind of cool. I thought that was fine. The B-17 story was good. I enjoyed that for many different reasons, and the caddy reminded me a lot of, and I'm sure the inspiration for Fifth Element came about through that segment, because it just sure felt a lot like that, including some of the scenes are almost duplicated, like the loss of the East and West River there. I thought was interesting, because that exactly appears in Fifth Element that way as well. You see that very same thing happening. So I think that was the inspiration, came from Heavy Metal for that movie. So I enjoyed that quite a bit. Overall, it was very enjoyable. I'll go back and watch it. I'm sure. I'll keep it on repeat and watch it again sometime, maybe in the near future, because I found it a lot of fun, like many others did. Let's see. Some of the things, animation, I thought was pretty cool and very imaginative. I mean, you can take it anywhere and go in. You can take a story anywhere in animation, and they decided to do exactly that, including some kind of trippy stuff that looked a little bit like our favorite director, Stanley Kubrick, in some ways, which I thought was great. The music was very good, including the instrumental music or orchestration, which is done by Elmer Bernstein, one of my favorite composers. And I thought that really added to it and provided some glue and coherence between the different events. And then one of the things that was mentioned, of course, is continuity. Is there continuity between all of the segments? Well, considering the fact I think there were, 9 animation houses, maybe more than that, involved simultaneously. There was also some problems as you get into different stories by different people and characters that are copyrighted. Trying to weave that copyright jungle together is very difficult to do. So I think that they were able to put something together that actually worked as effectively as it did. Must have been a logistics nightmare through the whole thing. So many things could have gone wrong, and a few things did, but the movie still came out. How many movies do we know where, anthology or otherwise, where there's multiple artists involved, they get bogged down in development hell or copyright efforts and, personalities and artistic differences and, hissy fits, whatever you want to call all that stuff, and they managed to get the film out. So who knows how bad it might have been or how bad it got, but they managed to put out a fairly pleasing. I think they did a great job. I love the fact that they had different story types. Humor was great. The Twilight Zone-ish type stories, horror stories worked. The fantasy elements were pretty cool. It kind of reminded me a little bit of a ginned-up version of Johnny Quest. If you remember that show, it had great music and fairly good stories. They weren't overly heavyweight either, but they were a lot of fun. And it reminded me of Johnny Quest watching this with maybe for adults. But overall, pretty good.
Good evening. The time is 11 p.m. Code 5551.
So yeah, for me, it's worth seeing it one more time. Okay, let me, Brenda's over here. We're on chat. She says she's ready, so go ahead and bring her on. WB50ZL, Brenda, what did you think about plot and the stories for our movie tonight, Heavy Metal from 1981, KE5ICX?
Thanks for coming back to me. This is WB50ZL. Yeah, just as I was about to hit transmit, everything just went sideways, and it took a little while to get logged back in. But we're back now. I had never seen this movie. I actually had never heard of it, but I was really pleased. It was a joy to find this, something unexpected that I'd never heard of or seen. I love the music. I love the Bernstein music and all the rock music. I liked the bird. I thought that was very poignant. It's hard to make things emotionally sensitive in animation sometimes, but they managed to do that. So I think there was some very touching things in this, and there was some stuff that was just wacky and off the wall, and that's fine too. It made for a good mix, like a wonderful salad with all the great things in it. And you didn't know what to expect next. You didn't know if it was going to be whimsical or tragic, so it kind of kept you on your toes. Let's see. I'm not always a big fan of animation, because usually it's for kids and it's just not very evolved. But I did like this, and it was pretty easy to follow, I'll say, and certainly keep the characters separated. But they had a lot of interesting characters, but we'll save that for the next time. All right, back to net, WB5OZL.
All right, thank you, Brenda. I'll go ahead and since we're at the bottom of the list, I'll go ahead and ask for additional check-ins. If you'd like to join us this evening, we're talking about the movie Heavy Metal from 1981. So if you're out there and you'd like to check in, even if you didn't see it, just mention that you're there. That's perfectly fine, too. Please come with your call, your name, and did you see the film. Okay, well, we'll just press on, and the next section is characterization. There is no shortage of characters in this thing, so we'll see how this all goes with an anthology with a whole bunch of stories. So, Tony, NC5PM, first, what do you think about characterization? And I guess acting, voice acting in this case, from KE5 ICX.
Well, I did really love watching the credits of this movie. I was, oh man, John Candy, Eugene Levy, Harold Ramis. I was really excited to see people I knew in the credits. But wait, there's more. Of course, being a bird person, I kind of fell in love with Tarna and her mount. I'd be happy to clean out the stables. The Terrakians need a lot of big, giant geese. Some other kind of bird. Really, they're geese. They look like baby songbirds, but there is no bird as strong and aggressive as a goose. So I really imagined that she was flying on the shoulders of a Canada goose. Man, I really liked the characters a lot. Even in the B-17 sequence, they were so scared. It was so human. It was so real. I didn't expect to like animated characters this much, and I did. There was even a moment in a sequence where the city of the scientist philosophers was getting overrun. It looked like the Bayou Tapestry. They were getting stabbed with spears, and little droplets of blood fell out, and of course the droplets are the size of a human head. But really wonderful. Violence in anime usually looks like animation. Usually looks like Tom and Jerry, but no, I kept going, ouch, ouch, ouch. It worked. So yeah, I really loved the characters in this movie. Aaron really loved the competing sequence where, it's my green sphere. No, wait, shut up. It's my green sphere. I know what a green sphere looks like. I want that. That's fine. She's remembered that for like 30 years. Wow. So, this movie sticks. The characters only appear briefly, but they're strong, they're clearly defined, and they were a lot of fun. NT5TM.
All right, very good. We're just zooming through this. Bill, N5BB, what did you think of characterization from KE5 ICX?
This is N5BB. Well, thank you, Tom. Yes, the characters were very interesting. I like the girl up front up in the I guess it first to the second. The girl in front that's first introduced us to the green orb and has to sit there and stare at it. And then she appears at the end again. And so I liked her. I, of course, liked the hero riding on the big bird and the bird itself. I really liked the taxi driver. Harry Canyon is his name. And his license plate was HCIA, Harry Canyon, and I don't know what the IA stood for. But the taxi cab design, including all the neat features it had, including the disposal feature, just the nonchalant attitude of the taxi driver, kind of going with the flow. That was pretty interesting. And the taxi itself was interesting. It was nearly a character. Also, you know, the crazy aliens that came down into the Pentagon and sucked up the scientist that said, there's no aliens, none of them. And the woman that had the green orb on her around her neck, in her cleavage, kind of. And the characters on the spaceship where they were sucked up into, they were despicable, horrible characters on that spaceship, including the robot. But they were very well characterized, and of course they were druggies too. But they were crazy. Did you notice? I'm trying to remember when it was. I believe it's when their crazy little spacecraft, and by the way, they're on drugs, so it's going crazy. As it was approaching the space station, something that went by was the Enterprise. That's right, the Star Trek Enterprise was going by. It was only there for a couple of seconds, but I could see it moving across the screen. So they had some Easter eggs that were thrown in. I kind of liked also the character of Captain Lincoln F. Stern, who was sitting there he looked kind of like a pilot. He had a huge chin. He was so confident. Oh, I'm going to get through this. And just his over-the-top attitude and finally kind of getting out of it by paying off the guy at the end. But I tell you, the characterization in that was really good. The B-17 thing was kind of interesting, but very dark. It's inside BB. To me, the B-17, I think a real B-17 isn't near as large as it looked like. It looked like he had to really go a big distance to get back to the back. It looked like there was a door or something. And B-17 isn't that big. I think that was overdone. But still, it was kind of interesting to look at. And then the pilot saying, I'm getting out of here and bailing out. Although it's much harder to bail out of a B-17. It's very difficult. So I don't know if he could have done it that quickly. But the evil in that B-17. I guess that's it. There's lots more characterization that I guess I didn't write down all the segments and think about all of them, but I'm sure there's many other characters. That was the best part of it, was the characterization in these little pieces. And because they were short segments, nobody cares about the backstory or anything. You don't care where they came from, why they're there, or anything. All you have to worry about it is a few minutes of animation where they're doing their little action. So we normally worry about the movies is, their long-term motivations, where they came from, what the backstory is. Who cares? It's a really short little segment, so nobody cares. That's all. Inside BB.
All right, thank you, Bill. Yeah, I got something to say on that. Thanks. You gave me something for this segment. Next up is Chris, K0FER. Chris,
Yeah, I don't really remember it that well, so I don't have much to comment on this section. Back to that, Casey Ralph.
All right, very good. No harm, no foul. Appreciate you checking in on this one, even though it's been a while back. NV5F, Virginia, same question to you. What do you think of equipment characterization and all these different segments?
Okay, well, there were some famous voices here. Some of these people got famous after this movie. A lot of comedians, and they all did a good job. John Candy did like a bajillion voices on this, and everybody, that's common in animation, especially when the budgets are lower, for people to double up doing voices. Especially if you got different segments, you can definitely get away with that. And overall, I thought all the voice acting was pretty good. Talking about no backstory, that's actually pretty good writing, because you can, the writers did give backstory in really brief. It was just brief enough that, the segments were short and simple, but like something like the Den section, you find out just by this guy narrating. He's a dorky teenager who has a rock collection, and that says it all right there. He's in high school, he's got a rock collection, he found this weird green thing and he put it in his rock collection, and it's a stormy night, so he's trying to do some Frankenstein kind of experiments, and that in combination with the weird new rock he found throws him through some kind of time-space portal, and he ends up on another planet, and he's still the same goofy guy, but he's in this big, strong guy's body, and just the language he uses as he's narrating it inside his own head. It says a lot about his character, and there was some good writing on this, where you could get that from a really short segment. And the taxi driver segment was the same way. It was kind of like internal narration, and that definitely makes up for a lot of ground, and that worked with both those types of stories. I've got a little bit here that I would like to hear other people's opinion on. Speaking of Captain Stern, there has got to be somebody who worked on, and animation's a small world, and people who do animation, they like animation, and I'm sure every animator in Hollywood, in the 80s and 90s had seen this movie and was probably a fan of it just because it was so off the wall and had so much variety of animation in it. There has got to be someone who worked on Disney's Beauty and the Beast, who saw Captain Stern, and later on, when they needed to make the character Gaston for Beauty and the Beast, someone remembered that guy, and the people who made this movie could sue Disney. He's like the same character. And I was watching that sequence, and I had totally forgotten that one, and I was like, I know this guy. And think about it, or go back and watch it again. He's the exact same character. And that scene, that short, that was very short. It was a very short little quick one, and they did a pretty good job setting that to get the characters right away. Everything was a stereotype or a trope. The women were mostly ditzy. The lady in the taxi driver sequence, she had the face of June Cleaver and or some 50s TV show housewife, and then the body of a Playboy centerfold. And it's funny because the most of the women were obviously, they were all very physically attractive, but there was an interesting continuum from mostly super ditzy and easy to take advantage of, all the way to very powerful and in charge. So there was an interesting continuum there, but they were all very well well endowed and physically well built, for lack of a better way of putting it. And then the male characters, you got all kinds, the skinny nerdy guys and the goofy druggy guys that were aliens, and the cheesy robot, and the bad guys in the last segment, the B-17 one. That was the scariest one, and that was super simple, but man, it was so scary. But my favorite was Tarna and her bird. I loved how they made that bird so lovable in such a short amount of time. And I liked her because she never said anything. She was just stoic. She was very heroic, and she was very competent, and she was a warrior, and she kicked a lot of butt. She was pretty cool. I loved her when I was a kid. She was my favorite human character in this. Her and the girl at the end, who kind of turns out to also be a Terrakian warrior. And then at the end she has a bird. She gets her own bird at the end, and it's like purple, which is awesome. So yeah, I loved that bird. I really did. He's just the coolest. So yeah, I liked the characters. They were all very well fleshed out for the amount of time they each got. They didn't get a whole lot of time each, and they, as much as it was kind of a superficial romp through time and space and other subjects, it was fairly well fleshed out for the amount of time each thing got. It worked for what it was supposed to be. So yeah, good characters, good acting, generally interesting. Back to net in V5S.
Great, excellent. Next up is Brenda, WG50ZL. Brenda, your thoughts on characterization from KE5 ITX.
WG50ZL. Oh, this is so funny. When I saw Stern, I immediately said, "That's Gaston." I didn't think anyone else would get that connection, but I think it may be an obvious one, which I thought was very funny. Yeah, I liked a lot of the characters. I liked the taxi driver. He was funny. He was earthy, and it was just amusing. And it surprises me. They had these little snippets of stories, and they managed to convey a lot in that story, especially with animation. Honestly, it was very artfully done, and a lot of it was very poignant, and some of it was scary, and some of it was exciting and adventurous, and it's just ran the whole gamut of emotions in this thing. This is an old movie, and I don't quarrel with the sexist things with old movies. It was a different time and era. I lived through it. It's, you can't judge the past by today's morals. So it didn't bother me much. I just look at the times, and a lot of other movies back then, it was like, how'd the woman make the coffee? That's very sexy. But that was the times. So, I guess this movie is what, 20, 30, 40, 45 years old. So, it's kind of amazing. All right. Well, yeah, there was all kinds of characters, and they were all kind of interesting, and all kinds of different types of characters. All right, back to net, WV50ZL.
All right, thank you, Brenda. Well, let's see, we're 5 more left. I'll do my usual. Any additional check-ins, please come now with your call time. well, that's perfectly fine. I'll just give my little bit. I think everybody pretty much covered topics that I thought. Bill, I'm going to say this. I thought I saw the Enterprise too, and then I wondered it was gone so quickly. I thought, did I see that or not? I'm not sure because it was like a blink and it was gone. So you saw it as well. It just was like a half a second on the screen. It was not very long. So, yep, I caught it too. I like some of the comments about being the short segments and being able to establish your characterization in that pretty quickly. I think part of that's because these vignettes, even though they're kind of spacey and trippy, a lot of the stuff we've seen before or we're aware of from old movies. So we could kind of fill in the blanks, and then as to the backstory, to a certain degree, all these stories have been done before in some way, shape, or form. So we're concentrating on characterization. Where are they going to take it this time around, right? So the establishing pieces of this, it's like the old story, you know, talk about you see a guy in a car and he's racing away and there's cops behind him and he's got a gun and he's shooting at the cop car, right? What do we know? Well, he's a robber or a bad guy and the police are in pursuit. We know that pretty quickly. And it doesn't matter the situation we've seen so many times. We know what that looks like and which version do we get? Do we get the, you know, the classic movie thing with Humphrey Bogart trying to get away from prison or from a bank robbery, or are we doing the Blues Brothers where they're trying to get away because they are perceived as being dangerous through trumped up charges, or what? You know, you can do these things fairly quickly because these genres and ideas have been around for a long time. And we've watched hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of hours of movies and television to be able to shorthand it. But what works and what grabs you is exactly what everybody said, characterization. Characters are there. They're really interesting. They're fun to listen to. And you're able to move the story forward very quickly and engage in these characters through the animation and through the voice acting that goes along with it. So I think it was interesting. And I thought it's kind of, I've been mulling it around in my head for the last 24 hours or so, and I determined I like this and it's worth a review. I think it may even go into a favorite category, and I'll go back and watch it more than just, I'll watch it a second time. I'll probably watch it a third or fourth time. I think it's one of these films that I'll probably go back to because it's nicely made, and the complexity in it is interesting and to be commended, and while at the same time delivering a product that's enjoyable. And I think they did all of those of the above. All right, well, we've got plenty of time. We'll go ahead and move on to the third section, which is the technical aspects of the film. So if you've got something on that one, we'll just go down the list because I think people will have something to say. So we've got animation, we've got music, we've got the bands, we've got how the stories were interweaved. We've got a bunch of stuff. So if you got something, you're going to get called upon no matter what. So we'll start at the top with Tony, NT5TM. Tony, what do you got to say? And if there's anything we missed on any of the previous two rounds, by all means, bring it up now. We got plenty of time, so go ahead from KE5ICX.
I really did enjoy this movie, but unfortunately I don't have anything more to add. I gotta check out NT5TM.
All right, well, that's okay. I don't mind ending a little early tonight. That's perfectly fine by me. Next up is Bill, N5DD. Bill, technical aspects of the film or anything we left out? Go ahead, from KE5ICX.
Very good, Tom. This is N5DD. Well, I think the animation was great. It was enjoyable. I can't think of any of the animation that bothered me, that was distracting. And even though they were done in different styles by different animation studios, the way it was put together, it wasn't too jarring because they were in different places. It wasn't like they were in some place and suddenly it changed to a different animation studio. No, you were in some other place. And so it was okay that the animation was of a different style. There were a lot of, like I mentioned, some Easter eggs in it, like the Enterprise zipping past just a couple of frames. But there were a few other things that were in it. When you got to the cabbie's apartment, Harry Canyon, remember they went into his apartment with the girl, and when they go in there, at the start of that scene, you see one wall of his apartment, and on it there's kind of a partially damaged poster that says, "I love New York." It's that famous image, the I Heart NY. Well, I was laughing at that. I looked that up. That design, that poster design, the guy that designed it in the back of a cab in 1976, 5 years before this was released. That was pretty fresh. And it was designed for what was supposed to be a short-lived campaign. And so by the time they made the movie, I don't know if they even realized that it was designed by a guy in the back of a cab. I thought that was a neat little twist. And, this is supposed to be way up in the future. And they were, in 1981, imagining that this would still be around, that I Love New York little emblem, in the future. Well, guess what? It's still around now, and we're like 50 years later. So I thought that was kind of an interesting twist, the I Love New York poster on the wall, which is much more of an Easter egg now than it probably was even back then, if you think about it. Another thing I really liked was the kid that, was transported to become, he was transported to another world to become this super character. Anyway, he was experimenting with natural electricity. Come on. So they actually panned the animation camera. They showed these big pipe-looking things coming from outside into his room in his house, and the lightning hitting it and zapping through that. The attention to detail there, I thought, was great. The high school kid experimenting with natural electricity. What could possibly go wrong? Anyway, I might look at it sometime in the future, just to mainly look for Easter eggs and other things I missed. If you look at it in the future, like I say, in the cabbie's wall, look for the I Love New York poster, right when they go to his apartment, the first scene of it. And also look at the Enterprise going by when they're out in space. I think it's when the aliens are getting ready to enter their space station. I think it's when it is. The music was fine. Nothing in the music caught me. It wasn't like there's some big theme that just caught me. It was kind of blended in there, in my point of view at least. But the orchestra music was also fine. So I think it helped the whole thing, but it didn't define it. The animation really defined it. Okay, that's all I got. Bye, BB.
thank you, Bill. I think you're done. You cut out just, I think, before you gave your call sign. Was there anything else?
Nope, that was all. And by the way, there's something wrong with your signal. It sounds like a bad power supply. There's a little wee, kind of a little noisy, a little funny oscillation that changes with time. I don't know if it's on your end or in the repeater end, but it's only on your signal. So you might want to try listening, like with Echolink, to see what your signal sounds like when you transmit, because it's really got some weird little audio in the background. N5BB, a little squeal.
All right, Bill, I'll look into it. I have some trouble with this thing. I think I need some sort of Faraday box or something to put this around. I'm not entirely sure. There's enough electronics, but it's just low transmit, and so it kind of just does this. I move it around to try and minimize it. I didn't hear anything on my receive end. Usually I hear it on receive, and that's how I know that it's also on the send side, but I don't hear it at all on receive. But I'll play with it some and see if I can further isolate this thing. It's been all over the shack here to try and minimize that noise, but I don't know. It could be coming from the device itself. It's a Raspberry Pi inside of a metal box with a fan on top, and it's near electronics. And, well, the long and short of it is yeah, it's going to pick up noise. I don't know if I'm going to be able to totally get rid of it, but we'll see what we can do. Okay, thanks. There was something I was going to say about your comment. I can't remember what it was now because you posed me with a dilemma there. Maybe I'll think of it later. Okay, next up is Chris, K0FER. Chris, your final comments. Anything you want, technical or otherwise? I think people are starting to drop now. It's getting late. Next up is Virginia, NV5F. Same question to you. Final comments, and I think you said you had something you want to talk about on music and beyond, so by all means, take your time and tell us what you got.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, I have a few things. I'll try not to be too long. So, music, I liked the score, the incidental music, so to speak, of this. There were times when it didn't stand out, which is fine, and there were times when it really did. I thought the action theme in the den sequence, I thought that music, that was memorable. I remember when it came on, when that part of the movie came on, when he was doing his, kind of superhero, comic book hero, Masters of the Universe, whatever thing he was doing. I remember that music when it came on. It brought back memories of me hearing it when I was a kid and thinking that was really good music. And then I thought the music in the end sequence with the Tarna sequence, that music was very poignant and very well done and very ethereal and sort of haunting and emotional. So I do think the music was good in that it did what it was supposed to do. It was memorable in some places, but it did what good score music should do in a lot of cases, kind of indicate to you what the emotion is, but not get in the way of what you're feeling or what the sequence is, what the story is about. So I thought the music overall was good. All the rock music was good. Most of the music from this I don't remember hearing on the radio. It almost seemed like a music promotion vehicle, but I don't remember these songs becoming hits, and maybe a couple of them were hits in Canada, or maybe got to the the mid-30s of the top 40 or something, but I don't remember many of these songs becoming really big. But they were good songs. They weren't too ear-splittingly heavy metal, as someone said earlier. They were just good rock songs of the time. The most surprising one, I think, was the use of Open Arms by Journey in the sequence where Harry Canyon brings the gal home, and he's like, oh, you can, sleep on the couch, and they're just kind of chilling before lights out or whatever, trying to figure out what to do. And so I thought that was probably the most surprising song. I do remember the Devo version of Working in the Coal Mine that ran during the credits. I remember loving that when I was a kid. So yeah, music in this I thought was pretty well done. It kind of carried things through and worked. Whatever music was used in each sequence worked for that sequence. Sometimes when you can't remember the music, it means it's good. It means it wasn't out of place or out of line with what was going on. But animation is that's one of my big things, and I thought that the animation overall, they figured out how to get it to sort of visually blend from sequence to sequence. They did good sort of segue or transition from one to the next, and it wasn't jarring. But to someone who loves animation, I saw some definite inconsistencies in style, which is fine because each sequence had its own style, but there were some inconsistencies in quality in places. The opening sequence, it had cool shading and stuff, but it also had a lot of rotoscoping in it. You could tell that they took maybe like a model car and shot the model and then just traced it with some cool shading and textures, and even some of the sequence of the guy getting out of the car and walking, it looked rotoscoped. And in that same framing device at the very end when the house blows up, it's obviously a model of a house blowing up, and so there's some things like that kind of stood out to me, not in a really bad way, but just in a way that I noticed. And the opening, or the taxi driver guy sequence, that one was interesting to me because the drawing itself, the outlining was very, very detailed, hyper detailed, to where there was so much detail actually drawn on the characters that it was hard to animate some of that smoothly. And some of the animation in that sequence and the den sequence, naturalistically looked a little bit clunky in places, a little bit just not quite naturalistic. These are all really nitpicky minor things. I really just enjoyed the look of all the animation. They got a cool look in each one. Cool colors, cool backgrounds. Some of the backgrounds in this were awesome. Some of the design in it, the color design, and the overall character design was great. I loved the opening of the guys, the trip out Cheech and Chong kind of guys in their big weird spaceship. I loved the opening of that sequence they did. It looked like a computer animated wireframe of the Pentagon, and they were zooming in on it and going down into that picture of that, and then it turned into it dissolved into sort of a real, the actual Pentagon, and the background painting on that was so nice and smooth and sleek, and that whole sequence looked great. That was the sequence that had Enterprise. I did see the Enterprise. It looked like the joke there was that they were flying through space and they were kind of dodging around all these old broken spaceships, and there was this old, just disheveled, devastated Enterprise that fell past them, and I was looking for other familiar things. I didn't see anything from 2001, but I sure was looking. But that whole sequence was really well animated. I thought the actual character animation was good. I thought the backgrounds were good on that one. I thought the lighting was good. But overall, the whole thing, the animation, and the actual animation of the characters and the big flying birds at the end was good. So the lack of like perfect animation skills on the part of some of the animators was like something that could be easily overlooked because the rest of it was all very, you could tell they took a lot of time on it and, you know, did a good job. They obviously had a budget, you know, a major motion picture budget, and they strung it all together pretty well because the style changed from sequence to sequence, but it all kind of strung together with the framing device and technically cool effects, lots of neat animation effects. Yeah, overall technically nice, fun, still fun to watch. Like I said, I had a lot more fun than I thought I was going to have this time around. Back to net, NV5F.
Very good. Thank you, Virginia. Now I remember what it was because you've talked about music, but I'll wait until the end for my part. And very good, great comments tonight. Next up, and last on the list, I think, is Brenda, WB50ZL. Brenda, your final comments on anything you want from KE5 ICX.
This is WB50ZL. Well, I, pretty much agree with everybody. So many good positive comments tonight. Everybody likes this movie, and I think it's well deserved. The animation was really good. It wasn't like, fabulous or perfect, but it was adequate, and it did the job. And of course, the music was wonderful. Special effects, that's not relevant. I love the B-17. I mean, of course, I love the planes anyway, but I thought that was pretty good. Oh, well, I'm pretty much out of steam, so I'm going to shut it down here. Back to net, WB50ZL.
All right, thank you, Brenda. Well, okay, I'll give you my comments. First off, music. The orchestration, or as it was called, incidental music, is Elmer Bernstein. He's best known for Magnificent Seven and The Great Escape, although he did a number of films along the way. There is a piece in there I was listening, and it was during the flying sequence, the orchestral flying sequence he had with the bird and the gal riding the bird. I heard that, and I thought, I recognized that, and it was from an anthology series that was done, anthology music CD that came out years ago, and I always wondered about that piece. A lot of times I transfer it over to like a player, and I don't have it there, and I guess it said heavy metal on it. I just never noticed. I remember it was Elmer Bernstein, and I thought, this is pretty good. I rather liked it. And it wasn't a great piece, but it was a nice piece. I enjoyed it very much, and I like Elmer Bernstein stuff through the years. What else? Oh, I was going to say, too, some of the writing, Daniel O'Bannon is listed in here a couple of times as a writer. He's the guy who worked in television, but he's best known for writing the script for Alien, the original screenplay, and then, of course, the variation of that, which came originally in Dark Star, which was a short film that was done at the time. And he also worked on Total Recall. So he's no slouch, and had worked on several films. Return of the Living Dead was another. I'm looking at the biography right now. So he was pretty good at writing, so to have him there and writing some of the stories was kind of cool along the way. What else? I don't think I had anything else. I thought technically the film looked good. I was pleased with that, mentioned that earlier. It's definitely worth rewatching. I think, simply because I think it was fairly well done. So I enjoyed the film, and I'm going to rewatch it again. So, let me see. The next movie we're going to watch, and I was trying to go through my active list since I don't have control of my webpage anymore on Facebook. That went away. The next film that I have, and I've got a little secret list here, is this one is called Operation Avalanche from 2016. It's about 94 minutes long, so it's not too long. Thriller, drama, and more, it says. In 1967, 4 undercover CIA agents were sent to NASA posing as a documentary film crew. You know where this is going, don't you? What they discovered led to one of the biggest conspiracies in American history. That's it. You can watch for free. I think it's on, I don't know what it's on, but I'll send the links out. For anybody who's listening and wants to be on the list and isn't on the list, and they have no other way to get it to you, is just send an email to me at my call sign, Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-ray, KE5ICX at yahoo.com. Say you want on the list, and I'll make sure that you're on the list with the link to the free link to the movies. That's all we do, free links. So with that, I'm going to say 7-3 to everybody. Have a good evening, and we get to end 10 minutes early for a change, so that's kind of cool. And we'll play this game again next Saturday night, so have a good evening. If you end up in bed early enough, Sunday is my day to sleep in. It's the only day to sleep in. I'm up at 3 o'clock every morning. But this is the last day for the bridge down here in Corpus Christi. The old bridge that was built in 1951 is going to be closed soon. The new bridge is open. I've run that bridge. It's way up in the air. But the old one goes bye-bye. I've run across that bridge a number of times. So we say goodbye to it tomorrow. So good night, everyone. Have a good evening. This is KE5ICX. Clear.